Austin, what's the message from JJ and the staff after a game where you have some highs, some lows overall as a team?
That there's good and bad. He talked more so about the bad, but also did point out some good. So we'll learn from those things, and it's, like he said, it's the controllables that they get frustrated with. So we have to be better in that aspect.
It looks like that maybe Friday will be a chance to get at least most of the guys, out there again for one last kind of dress rehearsal, I suppose, for the regular season, which starts in a week. Where do you think you guys need to connect the most? What do you think are some points of emphasis for you to get as you finish the preseason?
Yeah, I think it's just still creating that chemistry. Fairly new team. We brought in some, really important pieces, and we just had to, log minutes together and, learn, how to play alongside one another. There was a couple times in the pick and roll today where, I made I don't know if I'd say the wrong read, but not the right read for the right person. There was one that I tried to throw to DA, like kind of a chest pass off the pick and roll. I should have thrown the lob, and just little things like that come with, playing alongside one another more often. So, just tightening those things up and building that chemistry.
JJ mentioned in the preseason, like the kind of your burst. He mentioned it a couple times. It looks, the eye test would say the same, I guess from our standpoint. Well, you look just faster, stronger, something like that from last year. Was there anything growth-wise, strength-wise that you focused on in the offseason? Is it a mix of that and knowledge and knowing when to hit the spots? What do you feel like is behind that?
I don't know. I guess I got faster. Maybe a little stronger, too. I don't know. Dalton told me that my bumps this year feel a little different, so that made me happy, but I kind of feel the same. I don't know. It's maybe different. I don't know. It don't feel much different to me.
You guys aren't new to playing with Luka. You did it some last year, but to see like kind of this version of him without the burden of the trade, new physique and different stuff like that in competition, what was that like against another team?
It's awesome. I think it's just the overall happiness that he has, joking around every day, building, real relationships with everybody, and just obviously, I don't have to talk about the basketball stuff. His stuff speaks for itself. He's, once in generational talent, sees the game, I think a little bit different than a lot of people, can create so much chaos. So it's fun. He's a good player.
This is our first chance of doing this preseason. Obviously, you've seen him in training camp, but has he been this level? I mean, obviously, he made some high-level plays tonight. Not that he hasn't done that his entire career, but he was sharp basically from the moment he stepped on the court tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I think as you see the Eurobasket stuff, he's a good player. I mean, when you're that talented, you can make any pass, any read, any shot. He shot a shot in practice the other day it was crazy, and I told him it's a blessing, but every now and then it's a curse to think that you can make every shot. So when you're that talented, it doesn't take much to kind of get back in the flow of the game. He can kind of do that seamlessly.
Can you describe the practice shot?
That's it. Yeah. A 1 foot falling out of bounds from about 35 feet. Yeah. He almost made it too, but some bullshit.
He almost made it, so he didn't actually make it.
No, he didn't make it. Yeah, that's why I told him if he made it, I can't say nothing. But yeah, he did make that one.
Last question, like that happiness coming back, either whether it's like off the floor, like, did you see much of that last year, or is this like a new part of Luka that you're discovering now? He's kind of like unburdened from the trade and he's a little more comfortable here.
I mean, I think you've got to think of it. Everybody, that doesn't play, professional sports, or I mean, y'all are around it a lot, so y'all get a feel. But like, when you have, that situation, y'all didn't think it was going to happen. We didn't think it was going to happen. He didn't think it was going to happen. So when something like that happens, it's shocking, and it's going to take time to, kind of, figure your feelings out. At the end of the day, we're all human. It's not like we're robots out here that don't have feelings, don't have emotions, anything like that. Like his family was in Dallas, so I'm sure there was a million things going through his head. And that's not saying that he wasn't fun to be around. He was always still joking, having fun, but you can tell that he's kind of at peace with it, and he's excited to go to war with us every night.
DeAndre, just a first chance in a game playing with Luka. We've been talking about it for a little bit. I know you've had some practices like that. What did you see, not just screen roll action, but kind of the whole thing overall for the two of you?
How our pick and roll is getting our shooters open in the corners. How much more attention Luka draws, just being on the floor with us, and the different schemes teams throw at us when he's on the floor. I say him being communicative as well, telling us what he wants and what he sees out there, and just really, picking up the pace on the offensive end as well, and giving people different good looks. A few times he was just throwing the ball up, kicking heads, whether or not he was getting turnovers, but it was just a good chance to really see how fast he starts the offense.
I know for you came back here with Portland before, right? So it's not like your first time or anything, but how comfortable are you starting to feel, even though it's only been a couple games with the Laker jersey and just kind of be the new team and all that?
Yeah, I'm real comfortable. I haven't really played with all the guys fully yet, but I love the way it's going. I love the progress, and I just love the commitment everybody's really pulling in from training camp to now. What we've been really working on is just communicating and transition, and we brought it to the floor today where, I heard the guys consistently. It was in, just regular pick and roll coverage. It was more like good, communicative, and, just using great terminology to, just to get the information across.
The lob that you and Luka connected on, what was the key to having that one be completed?
I'm starting to realize that I'm so used to lobs where, you see the opening, you throw it. But Luka, he's different. He's damn near drawing a foul at the same time and throwing a late lob. And, it's just, I have to be patient and, just really reading his eyes and, just being patient with him, but rolling fast at the same time, putting pressure on that big so he can be honest in the pick and roll. He's truly, he's truly a one-dimensional player when it comes to, one of the generational player when it comes to that pick and roll. He feel like he got eyes in the back of his head. He was finding guys in the weak side corners, and I'm like, I thought the pass was for me, but I'm ducking my head. It's for the pass to get to the corner. So that was really fun. Seeing how he starts to do his Luka magic in those situations.
Austin was saying that Luka attempted this 35-footer off 1 foot in practice.
Yeah, he's been doing that. I'm surprised he didn't go in. I told him to call a glass. Look like he favoring the glass, but nah, that's his shot. We trust that shot. It's something he could get to easily out of the pick and roll. Because, everybody's anticipating that hang step back, so he's changing it up on them a little bit, and I like the aggression. We're here for him, and we've been preparing.
What's the craziest thing you've seen him do so far?
Everything. I'm gonna be honest. The dude make crazy shots. He draw fouls, and he makes your teammates better. He puts you on that spotlight where, all right, you're wide open. There you go. What you gonna do with it? And that's what great players do. They make their teammates better.
JJ mentioned the communication that you referenced and kind of your role in that and wanting you to be loud and vocal. I think he said he noticed that a little more tonight. What's an example of the things that you're trying to call out for your teammates and that you said it was a little more advanced today?
Not necessarily even for my team, it's just for the opponents as well. When the opponent here, you calling out every coverage that they have and calling out every scheme and concept, it's kind of intimidating. And if I could carry that throughout the season and hopefully in the playoffs, that's a thing we're going to go by nature. And, that's my second nature, to really be vocal and let my guards know I got that back. Because if you're a guard, you got eyes behind your head and you're getting all these screens and, just in a binder, to be honest. And I just want to be that big to consistently, offensive, defensively, just, continue to just have my guards' ears, to be honest. And, JJ told me it makes our guys comfortable, so I want to be a big point of that. It keeps us going and energetic when they hear me out there.
Luka, how did it just feel? Your first game since obviously the way that you played for Slovenia, it looked like that translated pretty quickly for you and the rhythm that you found. But how did you feel?
I feel great. I felt great. I was probably better than I expected. Those first games are kind of rusty, but I was just very happy to be out there again.
Couple just new players that weren't on the team last year, obviously, that were out there with you, and Smart and Ayton. Wondered what you saw from each on both ends of the court.
Both were great. Obviously it's preseason. Obviously we're just getting started, but they were both great. D is getting his rhythm. It was Marcus' first game back, so kind of expecting a little rustiness. But I'm just happy to share the court with those guys.
Before the game, JJ spoke to the comfortability that he kind of sees in you, and getting back to how he saw you when he was your teammate in Dallas, just kind of the way that you are and the fun and the approach and how that translates to the court. Do you feel like that, or are you, now that you're able to mirror that of getting actually onto the basketball court?
Oh yeah, for sure. Obviously, I had to carry JJ when he was my teammate. He couldn't move at all, so I had to carry him big time. No, but all seriousness, I feel that way. I think just getting out there playing basketball for me is amazing. I missed it. I think you can see those fullness. I'm just happy to be on the basketball court again.
You're smiling when you're talking about playing, and AR was telling us that you had a shot in practice the other day that was like one-legged, fall out of bounds, 35 feet, almost went in, but he told you, like, hey, man, sometimes it's not a great quality to think you can make every shot. How do you kind of balance that? I mean, obviously it is a game that you're playing, but also working within the team structure to get the best shot possible for the Lakers.
Yeah, obviously, at some point there's going to be heat checks for me, for sure. I kind of like that, but there's going to be heat checks from other guys too. But just trying to balance that rhythm between get a better shot or just some crazy shot. Obviously, I need to work on that. Sometimes a little bit too much, but getting there.
Luka, anybody who's watched you play knows what your responsibility is on the court. I'm curious, though, at this stage in your career, how you view your responsibility in the locker room, on the practice floor, when it comes to, like, trading jerseys with Vando or building connections with Rui and different things like that. How intentional have you been with that, with kind of your first crack with this group of teammates versus sort of last year just getting dropped into this?
Yeah, I think this year, for my part, it wasn't intentional. It just kind of happened, And those things, if you want to build those things, you can't just force it. And those things just happen. And we've been having a good preseason. The chemistry is great, and for us to be great, we need to have a great chemistry.
Balance, probably seeing a lot of the things that you wanted to see in the first half. Luka and Marcus getting on the floor, and then the second half not being as crisp and as sharp, but probably groups of guys that aren't going to play together a ton. How do you balance the kind of the pluses and the minuses?
It's very simple, actually. We're trying to form consistent habits, and so if you're trying to do that, that means everybody. It doesn't mean 3 guys. You need everybody doing that. And thought there were some really good things we did tonight on both ends of the floor. There were some possessions in the first half where we were able to execute multiple square to reds, multiple pick and rolls, finish with a block out. Thought our throw aheads in the first half were fantastic. But if you want to be a good team, you got to do it every single time. You got to do the right thing every single time, and that's where I don't think any of the groups tonight were as consistent as they need to be. And to me, we took a step forward with some of the defensive stuff from the other night against Golden State, and we took a step backwards tonight, and that's, I think, a little bit frustrating.
Specifically for Luka and Marcus Smart, since it was their preseason debut, what did you make of both of their games?
I thought Marcus was very physical and tenacious. Would have liked to have gotten him a shot, at least one, in 20 minutes. That's where I think just, fooling around with the game a little bit. Didn't like some of the no pass possessions and some of the shot selection. And then Luka, he did some good things. I said at halftime to you, they had 2 opportunities to score right at the rim in the first half and try to make the pass to DA for the lob. And I think just first time, trying to work that partnership. But I like what I saw from him, and I like what I saw from Marcus.
JJ, that sort of pick and roll partnership, you can fast track it. I in some ways, I'm sure I try to, like you said, like do daily vitamin sessions and things like that. But like, does it really take like just repetition on nights like this to get as in sync as it needs to be?
Yes, and 2 goes back to the small interactions. I thought for most of the game we were really good with that, player to player, and there has to be, like, it's my job to help problem solve, and that's what a coach does, right? We problem solve, but some of that problem solving in real time has to happen on the court, and that's where I think there's some really positive trends for our team.
We didn't really get a chance to talk to you about this because it happened in the offseason, but you guys, to make this team come together, had to make a decision on Jordan Goodwin. Obviously, he's a guy that you trusted in a big role in your first year on the sidelines, and I know you guys are still in touch. You mentioned texting with him prior to the first preseason game you guys played. Just what do you make of his game, what he's doing for the Suns, and just the business of basketball that you weren't able to keep him with the program? Yeah,
Goody and I talked about that, and it's just the nature of how things played out this summer. I don't know how much I can say about that, but I love Goody. I loved coaching him. To me, he's an NBA player, and I think there's probably every coach in the league would love to have a guy like him. Just no nonsense, plays hard, great teammate, does all the stuff that as a coach it's sometimes hard to ask guys to do because it's not glamorous, and he just embraces it. And I've seen him play enough, and I've watched him as his coach, and I've seen him prior. Not surprised that he was, able to have a really strong offensive night.
Looking ahead to tomorrow, Jackson, Gabe, Rui, Vander didn't play tonight. Safe to assume they will play tomorrow. Yes. And would that mean AR, Luka, DA, someone else would not play?
Yeah, we're still going to make some decisions on that. We obviously want to be smart with 4 games and 6 nights in the preseason, so we'll make those decisions. But the guys that sat tonight that are healthy will play tomorrow.
JJ, you mentioned some of those small interactions, getting better at those. What are some of those moments that come to your mind, at least for tonight?
I think there was some stuff defensively on dead balls where I saw guys talking, trying to fix things. I know DA just in the last 3 or 4 days is really starting to get vocal on the court, and he was that again tonight. I think Luka and AR, it's their biggest point of development this season. Just growing as on-court leaders and off-court leaders.
You mentioned pregame kind of the mental space that Luka's been in that kind of allows him to find that weird sort of mix of like joy and rage, and did you see that tonight? Did it look like the guy you had seen prior? Did it? Do you know what I'm saying? Like even in small moments.
No, he's a weirdo. Yeah, it's the skipping up the court and stuff. I think it's good, and that's not to say he has an ability to do what I would call it like silly stuff, but still be locked in. It's important to him that basketball is fun, and I've talked about this a lot in the last since I was his teammate, but he's at play, and that's part of what makes him great. It's a discovery process of play every single time he takes the court, and there's certain things that you have to be okay with, There's certain things that are non-negotiable in terms of accountability, and that's why he's such a pleasure to coach, because he allows me to do that while still giving him the freedom to take one-legged shots.